We welcome in the Friday 5-hour holdovers from the first segment of the program. I don't know what that is, but we're getting rid of that right away. The Admiral Bill Stubblefield. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Rob. Whatever that is, I am curious what you're getting rid of.
Might have been honey. I don't know. We had it looked like a Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios commercial around here earlier this week.
I was getting a little nervous. Thought I might be talking about Mike and myself, getting rid of the holdovers.
No, goodness, no. No, what would I do without you?
That's not what he was saying earlier, Mike.
He loves you, as far as you know.
As far as you know. And Larry, I want you to know you don't have to lean into your microphone. That's on a boom. It'll swivel to you.
All right.
There you go. That last voice there, that laughter came from Delegate Michael Haidt, the Badger.
Good morning. Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you with us, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And the longest tenured member of our crew, former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning, everybody.
The baritone sound of Mr. Lawrence Schultz, attorney at law.
Great to be here.
Wonderful to have you, Larry. Can't compete with that. And in the, what did you call it, the pants-optional Joe Ferretti phone chair, Mr. David Valente.
Yeah, it's the clothing optional chair.
Clothing option. Yeah. Clothing option. Which option did you choose this morning?
No, I don't want to know. I don't
even want to think about this anymore.
I'm kosher.
You can get away with anything so long as you're not sitting on leather. That's what I say.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Had to let that sink in a bit.
No,
not touching that.
It sank in too fast, too deep.
Not touching that.
Keep trying to think of a way that's not troubling, and there is no such thing.
Mr. Ferretti, there's another one of those. I don't know what that is, but I think maybe some of those bees must have gotten out or something. I don't know what's going on there. Our leadoff hitter, Mr. Ferretti, not with us, so Mr. Valente is, and as a result, he assumes the role of the top position in the order, so long as Larry Schultz doesn't pass away in front of our eyes right there.
Yes.
Right? All right, Mr. Valente, the floor is yours.
All right, so I'll give you a little hint of my morning. I've spent the morning signing documents and going out on furlough from my agency that ran out of money yesterday, so we are now in day 3 of the federal government shutdown. I'll lead off with a question I have is which party is going to suffer short-term and long-term with this government shutdown, and essentially how long do you think this shutdown goes? My feelings on government shutdowns is they are often a waste of time for everyone involved, and they're a waste of money. We would spend far less money if we just continued to fund the government at the normal funding levels and continue to work on budgeting. Now, most of my career, my agency has existed in a continuing resolution because our Congress just really can't do their jobs and pass an actual budget and agree on a budget. What people think of as shutting down the government really doesn't happen. We still continue to operate. Lots of people still work during the government shutdown. They don't get paid, but they do get paid on the back end. There's a law that requires everyone, whether they are continuing to work during the government shutdown, that they get paid at the end, and those people who are furloughed during the government shutdown are paid at the end. So you're once again paying for work that you're not getting. Your disruptions to travel plans, if you're planning on visiting. If you want to go to D.C. and see the Smithsonian, that's closed. If you want to go to a national park, lots of those national parks are closed, especially if they have resources that need to be protected by, guards and things like that. Lots of stuff that we're going on with the federal government we are seeing is a lot of dog and pony shows. We're saying it shut down the government, but we're continuing to spend money. Right now we're at a clip of having a deficit of about $1.9 trillion for this year. That's not savings. That's not what DOGE was promising us. I'll give some numbers, and that a couple of polls have come out to kind of indicate where this is going early term, in that the Republicans are kind of underwater on the issue of the government shutdown, in that there's a, I believe, Marist poll that has them 47% are blaming the Republicans for the shutdown. They're about 30% for the Democrats. There's another poll, NPR, and I believe Siena, that has it at 38% Republican blame and 27% Democratic blame, with some people blaming, a lot of people blaming both parties for the government shutdown. I tend to blame both parties because it takes two to dance, and you have to be willing to negotiate. But I think this effort that we're seeing is, once again, futility. It's going to be a wasted effort of, shutting down the government, disrupting lots of government agencies trying to do things like get veterans their benefits or do small business loans or things like that, that we're being impacted because the kids in Congress don't know how to play nice together. So let me know how long. Okay, first off, how long do you think this shutdown is going to go? Who do you think is going to take blame in the short term and at the longer it goes?
And if I could add one question to yours, David, it would be in regards to the strategy behind this. Do you see a deeper strategy behind this is what we want as a law, this is not what we're going to accept as a law, therefore we're shutting down the government? Is there more to it than that? And I'll start with you, Mike Height.
As far as who's to blame for that, I think both parties are to blame for this. But unlike the poll, and I'm obviously a Republican, I put more of the blame on the Democrats. That there was a continuing resolution, a clean continuing resolution that would have extended this for 2 or 3 weeks, and they could have been negotiating and doing all the things that they're doing right now with the clean continuing resolution. We didn't have to shut down the government to do this. It just seems to me like this is something that happens twice a year, every year, and we can't ever get past it. We're constantly fighting about extending the government and spending more, and I think both sides agree that we need to cut our spending. You can't bring in $100 and spend $120 every single year, which is essentially what the federal government does. Both sides agree that we need to make cuts, and yet what cuts are made, neither side can agree on. If you look at this, and that was one of my subjects as well, I think if you look at this and look at what the Democrats wanted, they wanted a reversal of some of the provisions that were in the big, beautiful bill. And they had to know going into that no Republican was going to agree to any part of that. That they struggled to get the big, beautiful bill passed. It took a tie-break vote from the vice president to make it happen. There's no way that they were going to go backwards on that. So it was a non-starter from the get-go. Democrats had to know it was a non-starter. So they, in essence, they're the ones that have shut the government down because of this. And I think there are a lot of people in America that are so fed up that they're like, fine, shut it down. I don't care anymore. Start making major cuts to some of these agencies, and let's just do it the hard way.
All right, Bill Stubblefield, former federal employee.
Mike, you said that you think it falls largely on the part of the Democrats. In the short term, as David Valenti alluded, in the short term, the polls are saying it's actually a Republican problem more so than a Democratic problem.
But you have to understand why.
Well, yeah, let me finish.
Sure.
But but to me, more telling is the independents actually speaking out more heavily than what both parties. Independents say that it's it's something like 50% are due. They blame the Republican. Only 22% blame the Democrat. Will that carry over in the long term? I don't know. What makes this a little bit different, I think, is two things. One, the threat of firing the government employees that are furloughed is something that's never been done before. Is that a ploy is it a ploy or is it a real threat? If it is a real threat, will it backfire on the president? We're in so much new territory on so many different fronts. We won't really know how this plays out till after the fact. We'll be looking in the rearview mirror and saying we should have anticipated. It's awful difficult at this point in time to anticipate what's happening. But to me, and something that you mentioned, Mike, is the affordable health care. The Democrats are really concerned that many folks are going to be left without health care coverage or diminished health care coverage, and that is supported by, again, national polls. 71% of the folks polled share the same concern. The Democrats, as I read the tea leaves, feel that they lost the big beautiful bill by one vote, but to reverse the health care, they do not have many options. The only options they have is leverage of this budget bill. And if they hold off, if the clean bill passes, and if the affordable health care comes up for discussion in November, December, which that's the earliest it could do, the chances of the Republicans, for the very reason you said right now, the chance of Republicans agreeing to this is somewhere between 0 and zilch. So I think the Democrats are forced in the corner. If they want to do something for the affordable health care, this is their only opportunity. If they hold off and lose their leverage, they're not going to have any leverage at all in November and December. I think that's one of what makes this particular government shutdown different than previous ones.
Mr. Carl.
Well, as the second Mike to speak, I want to say I totally agree with everything the first one said completely.
As do many people.
Yeah, and the this has happened before, and the ultimate potential downside is going to force both parties, particularly the Democrats who took the critical step against approval, will. If it goes more than a week, I'll be stunned that we're in this situation. And history tells me that it won't last long. But the truth is that the Democrats, by failing they took the obvious step to make it happen, and that there's a time when the resulting effect of that is such that they'll have to back down.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes, by the end of this year, if this is resolved without some changes to recent enactments, by the end of this year, 20 or more million people will see their health insurance premiums under the Affordable Care Act skyrocket. They will lose both the tax credits that they get now for premiums and the ability to have a functioning marketplace that keeps up at a price where it can be done. I don't care what party you're in. If you lose your health insurance and you can't afford to buy it for any amount of money, that's going to be a problem. And the Democrats are waving that flag right now. The other point is there's two ways to balance a budget. And I say this as a supporter of Bill Clinton, who's the last guy who actually did it. And they involve both raising taxes on billionaires and other fabulously wealthy people and cutting certain costs. And we never hear the Republican Party talk about the first part of that thing. In fact, there's been a steady line of cuts, with a couple of exceptions, for quite a while now. Back when Eisenhower was president, who even I would agree was a pretty good president, I think the marginal rate for the wealthiest people in this country was like 90%. I'm not calling for a return to that, but that's a whole lot more than 30% or 32% or wherever we are right now. If we are not willing to pay for these programs, then we better be prepared, and especially healthcare is an important one. We better be prepared for outfits like the WVU hospital system to fail. And what are we going to do in West Virginia without now? In Berkeley Springs, we'll still be getting our care from Winchester Medical Center and Valley Health, right? Because it so happens but every other hospital around here, when it loses those funds, and so that everyone's clear, this sort of gets sloughed off once in a while. The Medicaid, Medicare, and the Affordable Care Act do not mail the patient a check and tell him to take it to the hospital. They mail the check directly to the hospital so that the hospital has the money. If we are going to just chop that up and let the market take over, there's going to be a lot of pain. And one thing that the Democrats are saying is, if you don't fix this now, or we're going to use whatever leverage we can to get this fixed before you destroy our healthcare system. If you don't do it now, don't come back to me later and say, well, we should have done blah, 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 because you could have done it right now. And they won't do it. That's really unfortunate. By the way, just a year ago, in some side comments he was making to some questions, J.D. Vance was talking about how he voted against a continuing resolution as a senator, and how, there were certain things he wanted and he voted against it anyway. And now he's got exactly the opposite position with regard to Democratic senators who are voting against a continuing resolution, or will, because of the issue that I just raised. If sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. The judges around here, I think it started with Judge Sanders, but it might have started before him, always called that the goose gander rule. And so if you're going to say, I can vote when I'm in the minority to cause a shutdown, then you can't very well complain when somebody else is in the minority and they do the same thing, especially to remedy such a dire problem.
I think all parties involved at some point or another have been involved either directly or with public words stating support for a government shutdown, and that includes the man at the very top of the government right now when Joe Biden was in office. So when politicians talk about government shutdowns, it's best to not listen to what they have to say, because it's really about who's on your team at the time of the shutdown. Back to you, Mr. Valente.
Yeah, so here are some numbers. There are 218 Republicans in the House of Representatives. 219 Republicans in the House of Representatives. There are 53 Republican senators and one vice president in the Senate. That the continuing resolution, the clean continuing resolution that they tout as not being passed, is squarely on the feet of the Republicans, because they have the numbers to pass the bill. They just
no. You have to have 60 votes.
Their own ranks.
You have to have 60 votes
in the Senate
for continuing resolution.
That's why this has happened.
Yes.
That 60 vote rule.
That's correct.
So, but still, the numbers are also indicating that the Republicans are taking the beating on this short term. The longer this goes, it depends on the intransigence of the Democrats and how this is being sold. The Republicans have done within their own ranks a good job in kind of almost divorced from reality, talking about illegal health care and things like that. The Democrats have done a pretty good job within their own ranks to sell this as protecting ACA. And, which side is able to carry that debate will determine long term who carries the day when it comes to the shutdown. But generally, the party that's in power is the one that takes the beating in a shutdown. And again, these things are ridiculously expensive, and we're paying for a lot of things that we're just not going to get in the end. A lot of manpower hours that are just not that are going to be paid out, but not we won't get any of the work done for that. The longer this goes, the worse it's going to be for the country. It's worse it's going to be for the Eastern Panhandle. There's lots of people here who work for the federal government, lots of people who spend money, with our local companies to, have their houses serviced and, mortgages and things like that are going to be impacted the longer this goes on. Cheering for, firing federal workers and cheering for the government shutdown, the longer it goes, is really cutting off your nose to spite your face. So just keep on your congressmen and senators to continue to work together to try and come up with some workable solution when it comes to the federal government shutdown.
Bill, how many shutdowns did you go through during your time with the federal government?
None that I can remember. One. I can remember one.
That was
in the
very
90s? Very short-lived. Yeah, that was in the 90s. That's right.
Yeah, but that took a few weeks, though. Because that was around 90... Go ahead, David.
95 shutdown. That was the one that gave us the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal.
But it was only for a couple of weeks, wasn't it, David?
It was almost 30 days. I wasn't with the federal government at that point, but had several friends that were there. It was significant. We were creditors were being contacted. In fact, now when they do shutdowns, you get letters to send to your creditors and things like that. But it's from that point, we had a shutdown in 2013 that impacted all the government agencies, and there was one in 2019. There's been a couple that have impacted certain agencies, while some agencies remained funded, which including the late 2018, early 2019 one that went 35 days for several agencies that led to the now the rule that says all furloughed workers, whether they were required to work or not, will get paid at the end of a shutdown.
Yeah, the critical thing you reminded me, it's been several years since I thought about it, was the distinction between a critical employee and a non-critical, or essential employee and a non-essential employee. Yeah. And actually, you're paid the same. If you were non-essential, you could stay home. If you were essential, you had to come in and work, but you were not being paid. So you were not being paid in real time. You would be reimbursed.
At the back end.
Yeah,
yep.
Back end, yeah.
Right. And the longest one was 2019. I think, David, you said 35 days?
Yeah, 35 days.
Yeah. And that
Who was the president then?
Donald Trump was president at that time.
I think you knew that answer.
Yeah. There were two.
Who shut it down there?
You're becoming predictable, Larry.
Go ahead, David Valenta. We overran you.
Yeah, it was two shutdowns in 2018. One in early January. They only lasted a couple days, and then one that didn't shut down most agencies because they have carryover funding. And then the other one that happened later in the year. Most of the the big federal agencies like our agency and DOD were funded. They already had a bill passed, but some of the smaller agencies were shut down for that 35 days.
I think the operation of government is much too important to be left in the hands of the two parties that are in charge of it right now. I do. I believe that firmly. I don't think either party is fit to run the federal government, and they've proven that over fiscal issues. Look at the deficit that we have now and the national debt. There's proof right there that neither one of these parties can handle the responsibility of running the government.
Could I expand that to all issues?
Sure, if you want to. But I think it's quite clear that it's time to get rid of this two-party system. Neither one of them has done the job that they were sent to Washington, D.C. to do. It's like a daycare center. They just sit around blaming each other and thinking that everybody else is stupid enough to believe them. And many of us are. But some of us aren't.
Yeah.
The problem is...
We're out of time. I don't have time for your diagnosis of the problem, Larry. Bill, you're on the clock. This is Talk Radio, WNR Martinsburg and TV 10. Can't tell you what it was about, but during the commercial break, we got the badger going.
He was very animated. He was just all over the place. Arms swinging around, head going, bobbing.
He reminds me, if you're old enough to remember Earl Weaver. Remember Earl Weaver, the manager of the Orioles back in the 70s? Earl would get all mad at the umpires. He'd come out there and start kicking dirt and spitting and whatever. That's the badger. Once he gets Earl Weaver.
Wouldn't it be fun to interview Mike's 3rd and 4th grade teachers about this behavior?
I imagine it won't be hard.
Or just the umpires when I was coaching Little League.
That I would have liked to have seen. That's a great point.
I got thrown out of more than one Little League game.
Donnie Grubb throw you out of any?
No, not Donnie. No, there was an umpire up in the Hedgesville area that threw me out a couple times. He was one of the worst umpires I'd ever seen in my life.
I was talking to that guy the other day. He said that height was the worst Little League manager I ever saw in my life.
Won some championships, though.
Some things never go away, right? Some fights never end.
Mercy. You always remember that kind of stuff, right? This program produced by the sports doctor Colin McLaughlin. He'll be busy tonight with Martinsburg football. We'll have WVU football on the radio tonight, Martinsburg football on the television. And that is a contractual obligation, obviously, for WVU on Friday nights. The rare Friday night when they play college football, we carry them on the radio. That moves everything to the TV-only kind of broadcast. We are produced by the Sports Doctor and brought to you in part by Hagerstown Ford and Hancock Chevrolet. Get your next vehicle from their website. They deliver it to you. You don't like it, they take it back. Also by the Mansion Ferretti Law Offices in Martinsburg, WVJusticeLawyers.com. Get more with Mansion Ferretti. Usually I would go to Joe for his plug of the firm, but he's not here to do it. David Valente, did Joe give you his liner to read in place of him while you're in the Ferretti seat?
He did not.
Oh, okay.
But go to Mansion Ferretti Law Firm because they're cool like that.
Yeah, I think that's our actual slogan. We're cool like that.
There you go.
Yeah. We are in telephone communications with David Valente in the Joe Ferretti phone chair. Attorney at law Lauren Schultz.
Great to be here.
Attorney at law Michael Carl.
Good to be here.
Professional badger Michael Height.
Good morning.
And with issue number 2, the Admiral Bill Stubblefield.
I'm actually shell-shocked, too. The way the Badger's going now, any subject I put in front of them, I'm going to be attacked.
Red meat, baby.
Red meat. I was actually going to go with the Paul Hardesty talk in front of the Board of Education folks, West Virginia Board of Education last week. But based upon the last 30 minutes, I'm going to change that. I'm going to talk about rural health in West Virginia. And the question is, will it become a campaign issue in 2026? Under the One Big Beautiful Bill, Medicare spending is set to decrease by more than $900 billion over the next 10 years. There's a lot of that. Over 7.5 million people will be uninsured due to these changes. There's work requirements that's going to be imposed for a lot of those on Medicaid, and the work requirements are going to be more severe for the folks in rural areas where there is not as much work available. The Kaiser Family Foundation, which is a national nonprofit focused on healthcare issues, has estimated that Medicaid spending in rural America will decline by $137 billion. There was a infusion of $50 billion due to the senator from Missouri that would offset some of the pain that the rural health care will be suffering. That $50 billion. But again, the Kaiser Foundation said that's going to be more than offset by $137 billion of loss in Medicaid funding. The hospitals there's a study from a group in North Carolina says there will be 338 rural health care facilities nationwide that will be endangered by these policy changes. And out of that 338, they estimate a sizable group will actually fold. In Virginia, this has become a real issue in the gubernatorial race, the rural health care. Both candidates are pointing fingers, and one saying how severe it's going to be. West Virginia is going to probably have an equal, if not more, per capita impact than what other states will be. My question to my distinguished colleagues is, will this become a campaign issue in 2026 at any level, the delegates, the state senators, or anyone else that's up for election, will it become a campaign issue? And since this is going to kick into effect 31st of December, unless some changes are made, which is Mike Height, I think, very aptly pointed out earlier, if the changes will not be made, and so these effects will go into effect 31 December. Will it become a campaign issue?
On the phone first with David Valente.
Yeah, it definitely will be a campaign issue, and little advice to Delegate Height and Delegate Hornby that you're going to have some kind of idea of what people are going to be asking about, not only the impact of the Medicaid funding, but impacts. Let's say the Republicans get their way and the ACA credits are extinguished, and there's chaos in the marketplace. Even though that's a national issue, that's going to start trickling down to, because it's a local issue when it comes to people's health care. So I'm sure y'all will be getting a lot of questions about that on the campaign trail, or on this show. But it will definitely be a campaign issue, as we go into 2026. I know a lot of the things that come with the big beautiful bill, which, big dumpster fire really, are kind of backdated to start after the 2026 election, but we see the train coming. We see a lot of this stuff. There's going to be lots of issues to talk about when it comes to 2026, whether it's, the price of our groceries, the price of gas. I saw a refinery go up in flames last night that will probably impact gas prices locally. It's a target-rich environment when it comes to very big kitchen table issues that people will be asking about. And it doesn't matter whether it's a national or a local national issue. They'll trickle down to the local representatives because of the impact that they're going to have locally to our economy.
Mr. Height.
Well, first of all, this is absolutely going to be a campaign issue. There's no two ways about that. Hypocrisy is a great friend to both parties. When it comes to campaigns, you're going to use whatever you can to try to oust the other side. I'm amazed that rural hospitals continue to be a discussion about these Medicaid cuts. A lot of this Medicaid cuts came from the great Medicaid expansion of the Biden administration, and it was just to eliminate that. Well, all these rural hospitals were built and we're expanding, and we're doing just fine before the great Medicaid expansion. So if they were okay then, and WVU was still expanding at that point, then why, when you retract all those Medicaid expansion, why would all of a sudden they go in decline? Why would they have to shut down? Especially when they did put $50 million in specifically for rural hospitals to make sure that they could be self-sustained. I just don't understand. And none of this makes sense to me at all. If they were viable before the great Medicaid expansion, then they'll be viable after the Medicaid expansion is taken back. So I don't buy this. I think this is all just a political talking point. This is smart on the Democrats for using it. It's absolutely. I mean, you throw something out there that is the big boogeyman and is going to scare people that they're going to lose their health care and they're not going to have, good for them. That's a great talking point. But I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. And I'm hoping that the majority of the voters out there are smart enough to see through this.
Mike Carl.
The key principle in this whole discussion is that it's generic, that the there will certainly be a discussion and debate and criticism about any steps taken that involve the budget, including delaying the implementation of proposed expenditures. It's all generic, and there's no question in the world that it'll be the one side or the other will be a subject of debate and discussion, but it's just more politics, and there's no you can't say this is clearly right and this is clearly wrong. Currently, the whole thing is locked up, the coming budget, national budget, because of the 60 vote rule in the U.S. Senate, and right now there's a Democrats taking advantage of it.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes. First of all, I had understood that most of the Medicaid cuts will not take place until after the 26th election. Now, that doesn't include the Affordable Care Act cuts, which are coming. That's not a part of Medicaid. That's a separate program altogether. They're going to be in place. And what's important about the Affordable Care Act is these are not people who don't have jobs and who don't have any income whatsoever. The Affordable Care Act is helping working class West Virginians get affordable health care. That's what the title is about. And if they don't have affordable health care, working class people have a tendency to get ill, just like non-working people do, and other classes of working people do. And as they get unhealthy, as they go to hospitals, one day they're going to have insurance, and the next day they're not going to be able to afford it. I would love to see someone, and I'm sure there is someone out there now, if they care about the state of rural health in West Virginia, which I'd like to think WVU Hospitals probably does, since they're intimately involved in it. I would love to see their data, what their estimates are of the number of people who are not going to be able to afford health insurance in 2026 and what that's going to do to their revenues. I feel like I almost want to say this again, that remember, the people on the Affordable Care Act aren't getting a check. The hospitals gets the check. The doctors get the check. The MRI center gets the check. And so as their funds drop back, the $50 billion that Mike was talking about, that's Medicaid, and that's not the Affordable Care Act. And so this particular one, this Affordable Care Act stuff that is hitting in 26, is going to be directly painful for some of the hardest working people in America, because they can't, because of their wage setup, they cannot afford free market health insurance. This was their way of getting it. Plus, they were getting a tax a credit for the amount they paid, so that they weren't having to pay taxes on the income they used. When that goes away, those people are going to see their effective rates double. And I don't know about you, but I don't want my, I don't want my healthcare rates to effectively double if there's been no change in my health or no change in my plan. So I do believe it is going to be an issue, whether certain people want it to be an issue or not.
Back to you, Bill.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Mike Haight's very passionate and probably very logical point to be reduced to a 30-second soundbite. So that's where the advantage is going to be, what can be best conveyed in a short soundbite.
All right. Speaking of Mike Haight, you're up with issue number 3.
All right, I'm going to move on to a state issue. The public school system in West Virginia consistently ranks at the bottom of the barrel. And yet, recently, Mr. Hardesty of the State School Board has chosen to blame school choice and the legislature for their woes. My question to the panel is that a legitimate complaint, or is that just deflecting the blame away from the State Board of Education?
For those who didn't hear that speech, Mike, are there any other details you can provide?
He essentially said that The problem with the public school system in West Virginia right now is that there is declining enrollment, and the declining enrollment is causing a consolidation of schools, and that the declining enrollment is due to school choice and the fact that more and more parents around the state have chosen to pull their kids out of public school and put them in public charter schools, private schools, or even homeschooling, and that is the problem with the public school system.
All right. Bill, why don't you go first?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I looked at this was going to be my issue as well, and he said over the last decade, 36,000 students have left the public school system. Some of those have been moving out of state, but then a part of that has been because of the homeschool and charter schools. He made a couple of points. One, the consolidation is a product of the school aid formula, and he said that was controlled in large part by the legislators. The other point that he made was the fact that the public school system and the homeschool and the charter school are working under two sets of requirements. And he invoked the state code regulations that apply to the public school system of over 1,300 pages. And then you add on top of that the annual blue book or the green book, whatever it is. So there are several hundred pages that the school system have to respond to. And he contrasted that with a homeschool, and he said all the rules and regulations could be put on a 4x6 card. And so in effect there were no rules and regulations for the homeschool. Charter school could be reduced to 1.5 pages. So what he's saying, what I heard him say, it should be fair and equitable. If the public school systems have to work under these very intense, very controlling set of rules and regulations, there should be more regulations for the homeschool and charter schools than currently exist. He did make the point several times he was not against homeschool or charter school. He just said they should be a level playing field.
David Valente.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I would probably go in the opposite way rather than layering more and more regulations on the home and charter schools. Let's start looking at removing some of the regulations that we are seeing on that we have on our public schools to level the playing field that way, to ensure that, one, the teaching environment's one that teachers can operate in without continually being in fear of running afoul of someone, or someone being offended, or someone being angry about something that was taught in the classroom, and the idea that charter schools and homeschooling is a threat to public education. I mean, I get that you're removing kids from the classroom. We've seen a decline in enrollment in our school, which yes, the charter school and the homeschooling option has cut into that a little bit, but I also think that it's the fact that our state has had so many problems that people are just choosing to leave the state and pull their kids from the local schools into their new states. So, I don't have too many problems with what he said. I think the solution is not layering more regulations on homeschooling and charter schools, but to reduce the amount of regulations that a state a public school has to face on their daily plate.
Mike Carl.
Well, I basically agree with what we just heard, but to say, I think we just need to take a step further and say there's too many arbitrary, bureaucratic considerations that have been in the current school system, and that's why the homeschools and charter schools emerged. But so the fighting that long time bureaucratic stuff, which includes the involvement of the teachers union, because they've had a lot of influence on all that, is really the way to go, and the great need for homeschool and all that could be reduced if we clean up the public school system and get rid of a lot of the bureaucracy and arbitrariness that's been built up for many, many decades.
Mr. Schultz.
Yes, if I'm thinking of having a new motor put in my old pickup truck, I want to get a low price, but if some guy says he'll do it for $8, then it's no. I'm not going to trust that guy. And that kind of explains the biggest part of West Virginia's problem. Our teachers are vastly underpaid. What's more, their health insurance is vastly underfunded by the state legislature. There's plenty of blame to go around for everybody. I don't think you can pick, is it the legislature or the school board's fault? There's plenty of blame to go around. I'll concede that. But on the legislative side, if we are not going to make competitive pay, especially in the Eastern Panhandle, then we are going to see our best teachers say, what am I staying here for? I can make 40% more 15 miles away. The reason I use those numbers is because back in the early 2000s, my wife did that very thing. She left the Berkeley Springs schools and went to urban Hancock, West Virginia, for 40% more money. If we can't
You meant Hancock, Maryland.
Yeah, what did I say? Hancock, West Virginia? Yeah. No. Hancock, Maryland. I think of it as being in the same state, but clearly their education systems are vastly different. If we can't pay our teachers a competitive salary, then what we are running is a situation where some very good teachers will stay because they're really devoted to West Virginia, but other ones who would like to have a house someday will move to other states. And that's been going on for as long as I've been in this area. The teachers leaving to go to Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and other nearby states, and maybe moving halfway across the country because they can't afford it. If we're not going to do that, then all this other stuff is just talk.
I think the strength of Hardis's speech or talk the other day was to point out not the teacher's pay salary, not the other stuff we hear all the time, that where our school systems are operating under two separate different rules. And I think Hardesty was advocating that it be prudent on the legislators, the role of the legislators, to try to equalize the rules and regulations, whether that's reducing from the public school system or increasing more oversight on the homeschool or the charter school. Either one, there needs to be more of a balance than what we have currently.
I think as we go back to Mike, if I read this correctly, Mike, what the legislature did was in reaction to the failure of the public school system. It's not what caused the public school system to have failure. If it wasn't for the way the public school test scores were being read, there wouldn't be the reaction to the homeschooling and charter schooling that I think came about as a result of trying to fix it somewhere.
You're 100% right. And Larry, that argument is absolute crap, okay? The southern part of West Virginia, the teacher salaries are competitive with that area, and the scores are still crap. They do have good teachers down there. The scores are still crap. We are 50th. We've been 50th for a long time now. Rob, you're exactly right.
I can't hear that enough.
The reason we have charter schools, and they're public charter schools, the reason we have charter schools and the reason we have homeschooling and all these things are a reaction to us being 50th all the time. And the legislature is sick and tired of it, and they have tried to take matters into their own hands because the central government, the school board, state of West Virginia school board, says you have no business in education. We're going to run things the way we run things.
And on that note, I got to cut the badger off. We got to get to the commercial break. We're back on the clock right now. Larry Schultz. We are giving Thanksgiving this morning for the Friday Five and that box of donuts that Justice brought in earlier this morning as Larry Schultz kicks off issue number 4.
Yes, because of Donald Trump's tariffs, China has ceased buying all soybeans from the U.S. as of May of 2025. In the meantime, Argentina's soy farmers have made up the difference. They suddenly have a burgeoning market in China to sell their soybeans. In 2024, China bought $12.5 billion of U.S. soybeans. Meanwhile, as an aside, Argentina has recently received some $20 billion line of credit from the United States. What will be the effect of these moves on U.S. soybean farmers?
Well, who amongst us has soybean purchasing experience? Mr. Valente?
I don't, but the effect is that in fact they've signaled this is heavy redistribution of supposed tariff money to the farmers to pay them to do whatever with their crop to subsidize them, and so that China can continue to buy crops from soybean crops from Argentina while we give Argentina money. It's this weird vicious cycle of money that we're supposed to be getting from these tariffs that are either going to go to the farmers or going to go, especially to Argentina with Milei as the president. The tax dollars are going afuera to Argentina and to subsidies for soybean farmers. Many of whom are large corporate farms, so it's just kind of another nice big corporate welfare giveaway. So, yeah, it's the impact of tariffs and how they impact our trade and the unforeseen, or actually lots of people would have told you that the impacts to our farmers were going to be grand because we were tariffing trade partners to a level that made other markets much more appealing. So, it's just the natural consequence of bad public policy when it comes to tariffs.
Mr. Haidt?
Amazing thing about soil, it grows lots of things. Plant something else. If the soybean market has crashed, I don't know, plant tomatoes, plant lettuce, plant something else that is in the market that can be sold. The tariffs are going to be painful in the short term. It's the long-term gain that you hope that the tariffs are going to cure some of the inequities that we have with these other countries. So for the soybean farmers, you help subsidize them a little bit this year with their crop, and then you tell them plant potatoes next year.
I love the way the Badger thinks, baby. Don't complain, fix the problem. Do something else. Mr. Carl?
Well, it's important in responding or thinking about these issues to understand that the context, and the context is there's unlimited number of forces and influences and that affect these outcomes, and obviously the process by which the changes are made is pretty flexible right now. I mean, you can argue about the legality of the tariffs if you want to, but they come and go, and so it's I appreciate the adverse impact of the immediate issue, but the context, the huge context, and the possible or likelihood, almost certainty, of changes that have indirect impacts and offset and things get worse, things get better. It's just I think there's a legitimate legal question about the tariff policy, but I think it's an important one. But it's the point is it's not alone, and there's so much. It's in the context of many other forces happening and things happening that affect the people who are involve the customers, the sellers, and everybody else.
Is there legit reason to be concerned for the farmers in this situation, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, sure, but it's not the only thing they should be concerned about. That's my point.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, Mike, the British told the Irish back in the 1850s, don't worry about potatoes, grow something else. And we know what happened there. As far as the soybean farmers, there's a lot more than just soil growing other things. They have millions of dollars invested in equipment that is unique to soybeans or soybean harvests. But this is not new. We had the same thing in Trump 1 administration, where he had to augment the farmers by losing some of their crop dividends. I see this as, and it's not only just soybeans, it's a lot of different crops are now going to the federal government and saying we need help, we need subsidies, we cannot make it on our own. So the farmers are very vulnerable just now, and something's got to be done. But I see this as just really the tip of the iceberg. I'm really concerned, and I've mentioned this several times on the show, that we are driving our allies toward China. And we're seeing this in Argentina, we're seeing this in Brazil, we're seeing this in India, we're seeing it across the board. And not only soybeans, but our intellectual properties, the way we're treating our allies in the past. They have not fully deserted us, but they're giving more homage to to China than what they had before. I say it's a real problem.
Back to you, Larry.
Yeah, this isn't just a factory. A soybean farm is a thing where you make a decision in the spring of 2024 and you don't harvest the soybeans till October of 2024, and you don't get paid for those soybeans maybe until 2025. In the meantime, you're paying for warehousing those things, or you have other costs. Those warehousing costs, if they still have part of the 2024 crop left, are not going away, and they've got a crop ready to go because Trump slammed this on them so quickly. The crops were already planted. Now they couldn't say, well, geez, I don't know, there might be a tariff, so I shouldn't plant soybeans, because then there's not going to be any help for them if they didn't, and the tariffs get pulled off, and China buys the soybeans. So you're putting farmers in a situation where they got to make this choice. And everybody says, well, that's what we do farm subsidies for. I would suggest that's also how you get to $8.3 trillion of new debt in 4 years like Donald Trump did last time. He did this same stupidity last time. These soybeans are the best in the world. I have no doubt of that. But the Chinese are not going to buy them in the middle of this trade war. And so you just say, well, we're going to have a trade war and we'll change the amount of the tariffs every 2 weeks. And yeah, those farmers are going to get hammered into the dirt, and they're sitting there wondering, should I go do the work around the farm to make these the best soybeans in the world? Or should I save the gas because I'm going to be able to sell them anyway? It's just insanity. And it's specifically chosen insanity. I'm sure he wasn't smart enough to see this outcome, but a lot of other people could see it, including the farmers, when these tariffs hit. And so, this is just one more thing where we're going to create a huge mess, make very little money, and then up giving any money we make plus a lot more to bail out the people we made this giant mess for. And we didn't do this by passing a congressional bill. We did this by one clown in the Oval Office saying, okay, here's how it's going to be this week. And then I'm going to change it next week and next week. And finally, China threw up their hands and said, we got to find another supplier. You people are nuts. And so that's where we are. And these farmers are getting, and it's not just soybeans, you're right. There's lots of other products that they're doing the same sort of thing with, to the extent that we would export those products. This is I was interested to see that in soybeans, for example, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska are the top states. So it's kind of a Midwestern thing. And you don't think of Illinois as being a big agricultural state, but it is. It's number one in soybeans in the U.S. And a lot of those farms are not going to survive. especially if they don't have a long-term crop to grow.
On to issue number 5, and for that, Michael Carl.
Okay. Assuming that California Governor Gavin Newsom is viewed as the leading prospect for, or in his own mind, for the Democrats' presidential candidate in 28. If he's wrong, who is?
Mr. Valente, you start on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, Newsom is the favorite for 2028. He's been the most out there, not necessarily actually campaigning, although he has done a few campaign stops. It's if it's 2 days before the primary, it's forever till the primary. Anything can happen. But I look at other names out there that could make some movement. I think Shapiro in Pennsylvania could have some impact as well if he decides to announce. Maybe Tammy Duckworth out of the senator. I believe she's Illinois. She would be a good candidate as well. But at this point, just because there's been such a failure of the National Democratic Party to really come up with any cohesive plan against Donald Trump, just by his online activism, I think a lot of people are gravitating towards Gavin Newsom for the 2028 presidential election if we're allowed to have one.
Mr. Stubblefield.
If we're allowed to have one, that's kind of a very ominous statement to make. Yeah, I think there's a fairly large stable of good, strong Democratic candidates. What is hurting the Democrats right now, and I've said this before, and I'll say it in the future, without the lack of a primary, Biden did the Democrats a great disservice when he left so late in the game and there was no primary. The Democrats do not have a recognized leader, but that does not say there's not a lot of very strong candidates. I personally do not think that Newsom will be one of the finalists. I think you're going to find Andy Beshear, Shapiro, and some of those folks as the one emerging the top, a fresh new voice, which I think the Democrats very much need at this point in time. Analogy can be made with Donald Trump. Trump in 2015 was basically an unknown. And no one would have put him in the top tier of Republicans in the early stage of 2015. Yet he, by various reasons, he became the candidate, and as we all know, he won and took office. I view myself as independent, but I do follow the Democrats as well as I try to follow the Republicans. I think there's several good, strong candidates available, and I think they will emerge.
Mr. Height?
Yeah, I think there's probably good, strong candidates out there that will emerge as well. And I think over probably the next 6 months, they're going to start appearing more and more. And when it gets closer and they start having debates, you're going to have that crowded stage like you normally do, where you're going to have somewhere between 8 and 12 candidates trying to vie for that position and gain some ground. My fear is, and I certainly don't want to give the Democrats advice, but my fear is on the Democrat side, those quality candidates that you allude to are going to have a tough time getting the nomination. They're going to come up against the AOCs of the Democratic Party, the progressives, Ilhan Omar's. Those are not going to allow those quality candidates that you're talking about, the Beshear, the gentleman from Pennsylvania. They're not going to be able to emerge as the nominee, I don't think, because of the power that I perceive the progressive part of the Democratic Party having right now. That they're going to have to, whoever emerges is going to have to appease that portion of the party, And in order to do that, I think they're going to end up going way too far left again, and they're going to leave themselves open to defeat once again by the Republican Party.
I think you're exactly right, but we have the same thing on the right, same thing with the MAGA movement. It's going to be hard for someone to break through that, hence a third party. I think we're driving ourselves more and more toward a third party.
I don't disagree, but I think that there was a movement on the right with the Tea Party and the Liberty Party, and I think the establishment, the base, has sort of squashed that. They've tamped that down and have not allowed that to become as prominent as the progressives in the Democrat Party.
No, I disagree with that, Mike. The Tea Party, yes, but the MAGA movement, no. The MAGA movement is just a manifestation of the Tea Party on steroids.
The MAGA movement is the mainstream Republican right now.
That's exactly
Yes.
right. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm a MAGA.
I know you are, Mike. It's obvious. It's, yeah, on a lot of fronts. So,
And
but
I know more about
Good
them
thing
than
we
you
don't
do.
call this a news show.
All right, Larry, it's your turn.
Yeah, I like Shapiro and Bashir, and certainly in any political party, there's a chance that somebody whose name we haven't mentioned here today will not only become the candidate, but the president of the United States. And so there are some people who could show up. I like the idea. I don't know a whole lot about Tammy Duckworth, but that is a good suggestion as well. She is somebody who has been pretty forceful and I think would be able to do some things. And we've got a long ways to go. It won't seem like long in a little while. We've got a year, basically. And obviously, though, it's got to, or what am I saying? We've got 3 years. But it's going to take a year and a half from now to get us into the place where we'll have a better feel for the answer to this. But I would keep an eye on Josh Shapiro in particular, because I believe that he is going to become more prominent as time goes on.
Mike, I'm going to disagree with you because for the longest time I agreed with you with your take on the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. But I'm going to think back to Bill Clinton here. And what the Democratic Party did back then was just kind of told that progressive wing of the party to keep it down and stay out of the way until we win the election. And it came through. Clinton portrayed himself as the old blue dog Democrat, basically a kind of conservative Southern Democrat, right? And I think when the progressive wing takes a look at what they have wrought, because the MAGA movement is a direct response to the progressive wing of the Democratic Party.
Agreed.
They're going to sit back and go, we kind of need to shut up for a while and let the other part of this party take control, because the louder we are, the more we ensure that J.D. Vance is the next president or somebody else in the MAGA movement. And they would rather, I think, tamp it down than deal with another 4 years of MAGA running the government. So I think that there will be some kind of deal where they shut up or tone it down dramatically in the next election.
Rob, you think AOC will
Yes.
tone it down
I do. I think that
for
whole
the
wing
betterment
will.
of the party?
Because
I don't
because
think she can.
she can.
No, and I think, and I agree with Mike Height on this. I think our antiquated primary system is going to prevent that. We've got the primary system gets, as someone said, the worst of the right and the worst of the left, and because those are the activists. And I do not see the primary system allowing either moderate on either side to emerge.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. I think in theory you're correct, but these are different times, and different times call for different actions. Go ahead, David.
Also factor in the coming success of Mamdani in New York City, the very left Democratic Socialist mayoral candidate in New York City may embolden the Democratic Socialists to really push for a greater stake in the party in 2028.
You may be right, but I tend to think that people view New York as its own thing, as opposed to the way of the Democratic Party or the way of government. It's kind of an island. It is literally an island, but it's kind of an island when it comes to how the party operates. I believe there will be a toning down on the progressive side, because as much as they want to be heard, they want a chance to be in power, and the only way they're going to get in power is by shutting up.
I hope you're right. I really, really hope you're right. I don't believe it will happen.
I should just be quiet after that.
Let Bill's
End of the world prophecies.
When
just-
Bill and I are in agreement, Rob, I don't know how you can compete against that.
We need exactly what you're saying.
Well, I control the buttons. That's how I can get it.
We need what you're saying. I'm not sure that we've gone that far. I think we will in the future. As the Father will walk down this path, people are going to be forced to go toward the middle, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, we'll see.
Man. Ultimately, we've got final thoughts. So 8 seconds apiece. Get those ready. We'll be doing those right after we do this. Final thoughts on the phone with David Valenti. First, go.
Yeah, 8 months. For the next 8 months, my mood will be directed by my hockey team. Expect much wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Mr. Schultz.
Release the Epstein files.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Let's go to Mike Carl. He has a comment.
You used your 8 seconds to pronounce Mike Carl's name.
I did.
Back to the last subject. As a MAGA Republican, I'm rooting for Newsom to be the Democrats' nominee in 28.
Mr. Height, 4 seconds.
Yeah, I second that.
Dave Ramsey Show's coming up next. This is Talk Radio, WRI Martinsburg and TV 10. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again in 70 short hours.
But I don't care. It's